They had conquered 17 species across the galaxy. They were tall, skinned creatures with 4 arms and eyes that glowed soft blue in the dark. For 300 years, no species had ever stopped their war machine. They believed they understood war better than anyone. Their belief was simple. Every living thing had a limit. Push any creature far enough, hurt it enough, exhaust it enough, and its body would shut down. The brain would say enough and force the creature to sleep, to stop, to surrender. This was how biology worked. This was how every species they had ever met worked. Commander Tailai stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the small blue planet on his screen. The humans called this place New Sol. It was a mining colony far from Earth, home to about 2,000 of these strange two-legged creatures. They wanted the minerals here. Taking this colony would be easy. "What do we know about them?" Tailai asked his science officer. "They are warm-blooded, Commander. 2 arms, 2 legs, they breathe oxygen. Their technology is about 200 years behind ours. Nothing special about them." Tailai nodded. He had heard this before. Every species seemed ordinary until you conquered them. And their shutdown response. The science officer paused. This was strange. "Our data is incomplete, Commander. We have not observed their biological limits in combat situations." "It does not matter," Tailai said. "Every creature has a shutdown switch. Their bodies will force them to stop when we push them hard enough. Begin standard attack protocol. 48 hours of constant assault. They will fall within the first 12. Lieutenant, the tactical officer, looked worried. "Commander, I have studied their history files. These humans have a strange relationship with war. They seem to." "Every species fights, Lieutenant, and every species falls. Begin the assault." The ground forces numbered 5,000 soldiers. They landed on New Sol at 3 in the morning local time. The humans were sleeping. This was perfect. Tired enemies broke faster. Sergeant Park was 53 years old. He had hair and a bad knee from an old injury. He was not a young man anymore. When the alarm started screaming, he was dreaming about his daughter back on Earth. He woke up in 2 seconds. By the 5th second, he was putting on his armor. By the 10th second, he was running toward the defensive line with his rifle in his hands. "Contact at Sector 4, someone shouted over the radio. "They're everywhere." Reached his position and started shooting. The soldiers were fast and well-trained. Their weapons were better than human weapons, but had been a soldier for 30 years. He knew how to fight. A plasma blast hit the wall next to him. Another hit his leg. The pain was incredible. Looked down and saw that his leg was broken. The bone was visible through his torn skin. Any normal person would have screamed. Any normal person would have fallen down. Did not fall down. He did not scream. He shifted his weight to his other leg, leaned against the wall for support, and kept shooting. "Sergeant Park is hit," Private shouted. She was 24 years old, scared and exhausted. She had been awake for 6 hours already before the attack. "Medic, we need a medic." "No medic," said through his teeth. The pain was making his vision white at the edges. "Keep shooting, I am fine." "Your leg is broken." "I have another one. Shoot the enemy." Private stared at him for a moment. Then she turned and started shooting again. The ground commander was named. He watched the battle from a safe position behind his lines. Everything was going according to plan. The humans were outnumbered and, in a few hours, their bodies would start shutting down from exhaustion and pain. But something was wrong. "Report," ordered. "How many humans have fallen from shutdown response?" His aide checked the data, then checked it again. "None, sub-leader." "None, that is impossible. We have been fighting for 4 hours. We have wounded dozens of them." "Yes, sub-leader, they are wounded, they are bleeding, but they are still fighting." Felt something cold in his stomach. It was a feeling he had not experienced in his entire military career. He did not know the word for it yet. Later, he would learn the human word: fear. "Show me," he said. The screen showed him Sergeant Park. The old human was still at his position. His broken leg was tied to a piece of metal to keep it straight. He was pale from blood loss. He should have been unconscious hours ago. He was still shooting. His face was calm, his hands were steady. "What is wrong with him?" whispered. "Why has his body not shut down?" "I do not know, sub-leader. It is like he does not have a shutdown switch." Back at the defensive line, a young soldier asked how he was still standing. The old sergeant smiled. It was not a nice smile. "I will rest when every single one of these aliens is dead, not before." He fired another shot. Another soldier fell. The battle for New Sol had just begun, and they were about to learn something that would change the galaxy forever. Humans did not break. Humans did not stop. Humans did not have a shutdown switch. They only had stubborn, endless, terrifying will. And they were just getting started. 31 hours. Private had been awake for 31 hours. Her eyes burned. Her muscles ached. Her hands shook slightly when she held her rifle. The human body was not made to stay awake this long. She knew this. Every cell in her body was screaming at her to sleep. She did not sleep. She could not sleep. The aliens were still coming. The medical building had become a nightmare. Doctor was a small woman with gentle hands and soft eyes. Before the attack, she had treated miners for small injuries, cuts, burns, broken fingers, simple things. Now she was cutting people open on dirty tables with whatever tools she could find. She had no proper medicine left. She had no clean equipment. She had been working for 28 hours without stopping. "Hold him down," she told her assistant. A soldier named Corporal was on her table. 3 plasma burns had torn through his stomach. She could see his insides through the wounds. By every medical rule, should have been dead. At the very least, he should have been unconscious. The pain alone should have shut his brain down. Instead, he was trying to sit up. "Let me go back," said. His voice was weak but angry. "My squad needs me." "You have holes in your stomach," said. She pushed him back down. "You are not going anywhere." "I can still shoot." "With what? Your intestines are falling out." Looked down at himself. He seemed to notice his wounds for the first time. "Oh," he said, "that is bad." "Yes, very bad. Now hold still." Worked fast. She had no time to be gentle. She pushed organs back inside his body, cleaned the wounds as best she could, and closed him up with rough stitches. It was ugly work. It was desperate work, but it would keep him alive. "Done," she said. "Do not move for at least." Was already trying to stand up. "What are you doing?" shouted. "Going back to fight." He grabbed his rifle from the floor. His face was with pain. His hands left bloody prints on everything he touched. "Thank you for fixing me, doctor." "I did not fix you. I barely kept you alive. If you fight now, you will die." Smiled. It was a strange smile, full of something did not understand. "Then I will die fighting. That is better than dying in a bed." He walked out of the medical building. He walked slowly and carefully, one hand pressed against his stomach to hold his stitches together. But he walked. Stood alone in her bloody operating room. She wanted to cry. She wanted to scream. She wanted to understand how these people could keep going when their bodies were destroyed. Then another wounded soldier was carried in, and she went back to work. The sub-leader had stopped sleeping too, not because he was fighting, because he was afraid. His soldiers were reporting strange things, impossible things, humans fighting with broken bones, humans fighting with missing fingers, humans fighting blind, deaf, bleeding, burned, and torn apart. They would not stop, they would not fall, they would not shut down. "This is not possible," said to his science officer. "Every living thing has limits. Where are their limits?" "I have been studying them, sub-leader." The science officer's voice was shaking. "They do feel pain, they do get tired, their bodies do get damaged, but their minds do not accept it." What do you mean? When our soldiers are hurt badly, their brains shut them down to protect them. It is automatic. They cannot control it. But humans can tell their brains to keep going. They can ignore the shutdown signal. They can force themselves to continue even when their bodies are dying. Felt sick. That is insane. That would cause permanent damage. That could kill them. Yes, it does. They do it anyway. On the battlefield, Private was shooting at aliens with one eye. A piece of metal had hit her head during an explosion. She could not see anything from her right eye. Blood kept dripping into her left eye. Her head felt like it was full of broken glass. A medic had told her she had a serious concussion. She needed to rest or she might have brain damage. "I will rest when they stop shooting at us," had said. Then she went back to the fight. Now she was lying on a pile of rubble, using a dead alien's body as cover. Her vision kept going blurry. Sometimes she saw two of everything. Sometimes she saw nothing at all. She kept shooting anyway. She missed more than she hit, but she kept shooting. "Why do you not stop?" a wounded soldier asked her. He was lying nearby, unable to move. He was watching her with confused, frightened eyes. "You are broken. Why do you not stop?" Laughed. It was a tired, crazy laugh. "Because stopping means losing, and I really, really hate losing." She fired another shot. Somewhere in the distance, an alien screamed. They had expected the battle to last 12 hours. Now it was hour 31 and the humans were still fighting. They were bleeding and broken and barely standing, but they were still fighting. And slowly, terribly, they were beginning to understand. These creatures had no shutdown switch. They had something else instead, something much more dangerous. They had a will that would not break, and that will was going to change everything. Hour 40. The battle should have been over long ago. Commander Taileye stood on his ship and stared at the reports. He had commanded hundreds of battles. He had conquered 11 species personally. He had never seen anything like this. The humans had lost 60% of their fighters. More than half of their soldiers were dead or too wounded to move. By every military rule, they should have surrendered. Any other species would have surrendered. Instead, they were attacking. "This is impossible," Taileye said. "They are broken, they have nothing left. Why are they attacking?" His tactical officer, Lieutenant, looked pale. "I do not know, Commander. They should not be able to do this, but they are doing it." On the ground, Staff Sergeant Moon was organizing the attack. She was 36 years old. She had not slept in 36 hours. Her body felt like it was made of pain and sand. Every time she blinked, she wanted to close her eyes forever. She did not close her eyes. She had work to do. "Listen," she told her soldiers. They were a sad group, bloody bandages, broken equipment, hollow eyes. "We cannot beat them with strength. We have no strength left, so we will beat them with stubbornness." "How?" asked Private. He had one arm in a dirty sling. A tube was connected to his body, draining fluid from his damaged kidney. He should have been in a hospital bed. He was standing in line with a rifle in his good hand. "We rotate," said. "We hit them here, then we move. We hit them there, then we move again. We never stay in one place. We never let them rest. We make them chase us until they are as tired as we are. And then," smiled, her teeth were red with blood from a cut in her mouth, "then we find out who can stay awake longer. I am betting on us." They had captured one human during the fighting. His name was Corporal Song. He had been knocked unconscious by an explosion and woken up in an alien prison cell. His arms and legs were broken. His face was burned. He could barely move. The interrogator was named. He was a young officer who had studied many species. He thought he understood how living things worked. He did not understand humans. "You have lost," told. "Your colony is surrounded. Your soldiers are dying. Why do your people not surrender?" Laughed. It hurt to laugh. Everything hurt, but he laughed anyway. "You do not understand us," he said. "Surrender is not in our nature." Every species surrenders when the situation is hopeless. Humans are not every species. Coughed. Blood came out. He kept talking. We have a saying on Earth. It is not over until it is over. You could kill 99% of us and the last 1% would still be fighting. Leaned forward. He was trying to understand. But why? What is the point of fighting when you cannot win? Who says we cannot win? The numbers say it. The logic says it. You are outnumbered and grinned. His teeth were broken. His eyes were bright with something that scared. Numbers and logic do not matter to us. What matters is will, and our will is stronger than your numbers. Sat back. He was beginning to feel something strange, something he had never felt toward an enemy before. Respect and terror. Outside, the human counterattack was working. Staff Sergeant led her small group through the alien lines. They moved like ghosts. They struck fast and disappeared. Every time the turn to fight them, they were already gone. The aliens were getting frustrated. They were getting tired. They were making mistakes. They are just like us, realized. They get exhausted too. They make errors when they are tired. The difference is, we are used to being tired, they are not. She was right. The soldiers had never fought a battle this long. Their bodies were designed to win quickly or retreat. Extended combat was not part of their training. But for humans, extended combat was normal. Human history was full of long, terrible wars. Wars that lasted years. Wars that lasted decades. Wars where both sides were exhausted but neither side would stop. Humans knew how to fight tired. It was one of their oldest skills. By hour 42, the ground forces had stopped advancing. By hour 44, they were pulling back to defensive positions. By hour 46, they were sending desperate messages to Commander Taylais. The humans will not stop, Subleader reported. His voice was shaking. We cannot break them. Every time we push them down, they get back up. Every time we wound them, they keep fighting. They are not normal. They are not sane. They are something else. Taylais listened to the report in silence. For the first time in his long career, he did not know what to do. He had conquered 17 species. He had broken worlds. He had never faced an enemy that simply refused to accept defeat. "What are these creatures?" he whispered. On the ground, Sergeant Park was still at his position. His broken leg had gotten infected. He had a fever of 39 degrees. His vision was blurry and his hands were cold. He was still shooting. He had not moved in 40 hours. "You should rest," a young soldier told him. Shook his head. "Not yet, the aliens are still here." "But sir, your body—" "My body will do what I tell it to do." Fired another shot. Another alien fell. It does not have a choice. The young soldier stared at him with wonder and fear. This was what it meant to be human, not the strongest, not the fastest, just the most stubborn thing in the universe. The ceasefire lasted 6 hours. Commander Taylais had called it because his soldiers needed rest. He expected the humans to rest too. The humans did not rest. Doctor used the 6 hours to perform 11 more surgeries. She had now been awake for 52 hours. Her hands moved automatically. Her mind had gone to a strange, quiet place where there was only the next patient, the next wound, the next life to save. She did not feel tired anymore. She had passed beyond tired into something else, a cold, empty space where her body worked without her permission. "You should sleep, doctor," her assistant said. "I will sleep when there are no more wounded." "There will always be more wounded." "Then I will sleep when I am dead." Across the colony, the other humans were doing the same thing. They ate cold food. They drank water. They fixed their weapons and treated their wounds. But they did not sleep. The captured soldier had been released during the ceasefire as a gesture of good faith. He stayed with the humans instead of returning to his army. He wanted to understand them. What he saw terrified him. Private sat alone, cleaning her rifle. Her bandaged eye had started bleeding again. She did not seem to notice. "Why do you not rest?" asked her. Looked at him with her one good eye. "Because if I lie down, I might not get up again, and there is still work to do." "But your body needs sleep. All bodies need sleep." "Yes," smiled. It was a strange smile, too wide and too bright. "My body wants to sleep. My body is screaming at me to sleep, but my body does not get to decide, I decide." Wrote this in his notes. He was keeping a record of everything he saw. He had titled his document, "Humans, a Species That Should Not Exist." He was beginning to think the title was correct. Corporal was also awake. Doctor had stitched his stomach closed just hours ago. Any other species would have been in a healing coma for days. Was sitting up, eating soup and checking his weapons. "Does it hurt?" asked him. Nodded. "Very much. Every breath feels like fire." "Then why are you not resting?" "Because pain is just information." Put down his soup and looked at with calm, steady eyes. "It tells me something is wrong with my body, but it does not control me. I control it." How do you control pain?" Thought about this for a moment. We have a saying, mind over matter. It means that the mind is stronger than the body. If I decide that the pain does not matter, then it does not matter. Felt cold. This was not how living things worked. Pain was supposed to protect creatures from damage. Pain was supposed to force them to stop. But humans could ignore pain. They could override their own survival instincts. They could force their broken bodies to keep moving through sheer willpower. This was not natural. This was not right. This was horrifying. When the ceasefire ended, they expected to face exhausted humans who had not used their rest time wisely. Instead, they faced something worse. The humans had passed the normal limits of exhaustion. They had entered a new state. Their eyes were too bright. Their movements were strange and jerky. Some of them were laughing at nothing. Some of them were talking to people who were not there. They had started to go crazy from lack of sleep. But instead of making them weaker, it made them more dangerous. Corporal Song had been awake for 52 hours. She no longer felt like herself. She felt like she was watching herself from far away, like her body was a machine and she was just pressing the buttons. The fear was gone. The pain was gone. Everything was gone except a cold, clear purpose. Kill the enemy, protect the colony, do not stop. She walked through the battlefield like a ghost. Soldiers shot at her. Some of them hit her. She did not fall. She did not flinch. She kept walking forward, firing her weapon with mechanical precision. The soldiers began to retreat from her, not because she was winning, because she was terrifying. "What is wrong with that one?" an officer screamed. "We hit her 5 times, why is she still standing?" There was no answer. There was no explanation. There was only a small human woman walking through a storm of plasma fire like death itself. Staff Sergeant Moon saw what was happening. She had seen it before, in old war stories from Earth. They called it going beyond, when a human pushed past all normal limits and became something else. Something that could not be stopped. Something that could not be reasoned with. Something that would keep fighting until it physically could not move anymore. "They are learning," she said to herself. "They are learning what we can become." Was hiding behind a wall, watching the battle. He had stopped writing notes. He was just watching with his mouth open. "You are monsters," he whispered. "You are all monsters." A human soldier heard him. Private, the one with one arm in a sling. He turned and looked at with eyes that had seen too much. "No," said. "We are just humans. This is what we are. This is what we have always been. We do not know how to stop. We do not know how to give up. It is not in our nature." "But why? Why are you like this?" Thought about it. "I do not know," he finally said. "Maybe because our planet was hard. Maybe because we had to fight for everything. Maybe because we are too stupid to know when we are beaten." He laughed. It was a tired, crazy laugh. "Or maybe," he said, "we are just too angry to die." He turned and went back to the fight. stayed behind the wall shaking. He had seen many species. He had studied many wars. He had never seen anything like humans. They were not the strongest. They were not the fastest. They were not but they were the most stubborn, the most determined, and the most absolutely terrifying species he had ever encountered. And they were winning. Hour 67, the battle ended. They did not lose because they ran out of soldiers. They did not lose because they ran out of weapons. They lost because their soldiers refused to fight anymore. It started small, a squad that would not advance, a unit that fell back without orders, a commander who pretended not to hear instructions. Then it spread. The soldiers had been fighting for almost 3 days without rest. They were exhausted and scared, but that was not why they stopped. They stopped because they looked at the humans and saw something that broke their will to fight. The humans should have been dead. Many of them were barely alive. They were covered in blood and bandages. They were limping, crawling, dragging themselves forward. Some of them were being held up by their friends because they could not stand alone. And they were still fighting. They were still shooting. They were still refusing to stop. One soldier threw down his weapon and sat on the ground. "I am done," he said. "I will not fight things that do not know how to die." Others followed, then more, then entire units. Commander Talais watched from his ship as his army fell apart, not from defeat, from fear. "Call the retreat," he ordered. His voice was quiet. He felt old and tired and beaten. "We are leaving." "Commander," Lieutenant was shocked. "We still have superior numbers. We can still win." "No," Talais shook his head. "We cannot. We could kill every human on that planet and the last one would still be trying to bite us. We could fight for 100 days and they would never surrender. We cannot defeat an enemy that does not know how to be defeated." He opened a communication channel to the human colony. "Human forces, this is Commander Talais of the Dominion. We surrender. We will withdraw from your world. We ask for nothing except permission to leave." There was a long silence. Then a voice came back. It was rough and weak and tired beyond belief. "This is Captain Lee, commanding officer of New Sol Colony. We accept your surrender." Was standing in the command center. He had been awake for 67 hours. Doctor had cut off 2 of his fingers 4 hours ago because they had turned black from infection. She did it without medicine for the pain because they had run out of medicine. Had watched her cut his fingers off. He had not screamed, he had not fainted, he had just watched. Now he was standing at his post, giving orders with a hand that was missing 2 fingers and wrapped in bloody cloth. "You have won," Talais said through the communicator. "We do not understand how, we do not understand what you are, but you have won." Laughed, it was a small, tired laugh. "We are human," he said. "That is all we are, that is all we have ever been." The ships left orbit 3 hours later. They left behind their dead and their equipment. They left behind their pride and their reputation. They also left behind. The young officer had chosen to stay. He said he wanted to study humans more. The truth was simpler. He had nowhere else to go. After what he had seen, he could not return to his people and pretend to be normal. "What will you do now?" he asked Doctor. She was finally sitting down. She had been awake for 65 hours. She had saved 43 lives. She had lost 19. "Sleep," she said, "for a very long time. And after that—" She smiled. It was a gentle smile, nothing like the terrible smiles he had seen during the battle. "After that, I will help the wounded recover. I will rebuild my medical center. I will go back to treating small injuries and simple problems." "How can you do that? How can you go back to normal after this?" "Because this is what humans do." She closed her eyes. "We break, we bleed, we burn, and then we heal, and then we keep going, we always keep going." Across the colony, the humans were doing exactly that. Sergeant Park finally let the medics carry him to a bed. He had been awake for 67 hours. He had fought on a broken leg for almost 3 days. The doctors said he would never walk normally again. "Worth it," he said before he fell asleep. "Every second was worth it." Staff Sergeant Moon gathered her surviving soldiers and told them they could rest now. Then she stayed awake for 2 more hours to make sure everyone was taken care of. Private took off her bandage and discovered she had lost vision in her right eye permanently. She cried for 5 minutes. Then she dried her tears and started learning to shoot with one eye. Corporal survived despite every medical prediction. When asked how, he shrugged and said, "I was too angry to die." The news of the battle spread across the galaxy. The Dominion, undefeated for 300 years, had retreated from a tiny mining colony defended by 2,000 humans. Other species began to pay attention to these strange creatures from Earth. They started reading human history. They started studying human biology. They started trying to understand how such a small, weak, unremarkable species could do such impossible things. They found a species that had fought world wars, survived plagues, crossed oceans in wooden boats, and walked on their own moon using computers weaker than a child's toy. They found a species that had nearly destroyed itself 100 times, but kept going anyway. They found a species with no shutdown switch. The Dominion updated their military records with a new entry. It said, "Humans are to be engaged only from space. Ground combat is forbidden. They do not have biological shutdown responses. Extended combat makes them more dangerous. Do not fight them. Do not challenge them. Do not make them angry." A secret note was added later. "They appear to run on stubbornness, anger, and something they call spite. No defense has been found." Captain Lee slept for 20 hours straight after the battle. When he woke up, his first words were, "Is everyone okay?" "We lost many people," his second-in-command told him, "but we saved the colony." Nodded, his eyes were wet. "Then we did our job." He looked out the window at the damaged colony. Humans were already working, cleaning up, rebuilding. They were limping, bandaged, exhausted, but they were working. Because that was what humans did. They never stopped. They never gave up. They just kept going no matter what. The galaxy had learned a lesson that day. There were stronger species. There were smarter species. There were species with better technology and bigger armies. But there was no species more stubborn than humans. No species more determined. No species more absolutely, terrifyingly unwilling to accept defeat. They had no shutdown switch. And the universe would never forget it.